100%. And actually, it comes with an ease, I think. So I think if you're not used to walking and trusting your intuition, it feels a bit pointy at the beginning. You feel like there's resistance. But as soon as you step into that and actually go with it, it's easy and it flows. And I think that's what you taught me right back, even in the whole interview process, just the flow when you are going with your intuition and when you're stepping into, yep, that feels right. There's just this beautiful flow.
G'day, welcome to Realms of Power. My name's Dr. Tony Rudd, and today I have the wonderful Niki Cole. I've known Niki for many, many years, and it's been a pleasure to know her. So, Niki, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tone.
It's great to have you on. And I'd like to probably start with just a little of the backstory. I met you, I think it was 2002. And as a chiropractor, I was advertising for a job and I had a whole bunch of applicants came in. And Nick, you were one of those applicants and you ended up getting the job. So you were working for me as a chiropractic assistant. And we had such an amazing time together learning about chiropractic and seminars. And that was the first start of my business journey, being a chiropractor, employing someone.
It was 23 years ago. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, yeah, can you tell me, just for the listeners, just give a little bit of a perspective on your journey of learning about chiropractic and coming to work for a chiropractor and how that relates to this podcast, which is turning on your true aligned power.
Oh, goodness. Wow, that feels like a huge place to start. Obviously, as you said, I met you 23 years ago just by answering an ad that I had no idea would change my life because I was headed down the road to do medicine, and getting a job in a chiropractic clinic was so different to what I thought health was. So even from the moment that I stepped in the doors, meeting you and meeting Nick, there was this just a radiance of really what proper health was, and that you were offering something so completely different to what I thought health was. And my journey into chiropractic started because of you. And really, my whole life has changed. And I've walked a completely different journey to what I thought just by answering that ad and getting that start with you and seeing how chiropractic literally, how do I put it? Chiropractic causes you to trust your innate healing ability. And coming from family background of medicine, well, I've jumped right into this, haven't I? Coming from a family background of medicine and having doctors in my family and thinking that I was always going to head down that way, and then coming face to face with a completely opposite way of well, not even opposite, it was the true way of achieving health. It was so confronting to me, but it was just like the switch, the light bulb went on, and I found myself feeling like I actually couldn't go back to that old way of thinking. So to answer your question, it was really walking in those doors changed my life, and actually my whole path from going down the medical route to pursuing chiropractic, working as a chiropractic assistant, meeting people, seeing them, their lives change, not necessarily just from that health perspective, but because chiropractic puts people in touch with trusting their body. You could see that it also enabled them to trust other areas of their life. Their mental health improved, family relationships improved. It just was like this huge gateway. And I felt like I wanted to be a part of that. And you and Nick really introduced me to that. And my journey from there has been, well, as you know, I ended up going off and doing chiropractic and studying chiropractic and worked as a chiropractor for years until other circumstances happened. So
Well, look,
yeah.
thank you for that beautiful summary. I feel so honored and to have just been a part of your life. And, again, we talked about just from advertising and getting a job
Yeah.
to changing your life path. And I love that I've been able to help inspire people, yourself included, and a lot of our clients that would come in, whether initially just for back pain, but we'd spend that extra time with them. And we talk about chiropractic because not all chiropractors practice the way you and I do. A lot of focus on different areas, and that's fine. But the potential of the body to heal itself from within is where that true power comes from, that innate power of our body. And however our beliefs are formed about how we've got that, it's undeniable that the body has this amazing ability to heal itself. And when you're in alignment, that just works better. And that's what we talked about, whether we were running workshops or just philosophy discussions or any of that stuff. So yeah, through that and through witnessing the changes you saw in our clients, you decided, yeah, in terms of that path to go and study chiropractic. Tell me about the power of making that decision for you in your life and your journey.
I almost believe that whilst I had that decision to make personally, it felt like the decision was out of my hands because I guess I've been brought up in a Christian home. I've been brought up with a faith system that I have always sought to find out what my purpose is and to ask God for want of a different word, what path to take. But I felt like when chiropractic came across my path, it was like it was out of my hands because it actually wasn't even me that saw that ad for your to become a chiropractic assistant. It was actually my mother-in-law, and I had been just only looking for medical receptionist jobs. That was what I thought was the right way to do. I had right way to go. I had already done a little course in medical reception, and my mother-in-law threw this ad, and I thought, oh well, I might as well go for it. And so that was the first step that I felt like it was already this ball was rolling down the hill and I was just catching it. And chiropractic then was, I don't know if you remember, but I had to take a test to get into medicine, the UMAT test. And overnight, out of absolutely nowhere, both of my eardrums burst and I could not even hear. And I was in absolute agony and I was due at this UMAT exam at 8 o'clock in the morning at the university and I was an absolute mess. I was wobbly, I felt nauseous, and I sat this test. And obviously I didn't go well in that, but it was just this little knocking at the door that, hang on a minute, you're not meant to be doing this. Chiropractic for you is the way forward. And so actually, it was a decision, but it was already being made for me, and I just jumped on to that, and, oh gosh, it's life-changing for me because not only did I experience chiropractic through you and a number of different issues for me were sorted out, but actually it was that trust and learning to trust my body, which enabled me then to trust that inner voice and that guidance and that wisdom of actually chiropractic is your pathway. So yeah, chiropractic, it was a very difficult decision in the sense that it was against everything that I thought I was gonna do and that my family really were aligned with, and here I was offering an alternative pathway to health. I don't see it as alternative anymore, but that was at the time what it was. And then, yeah, just trying to articulate it, I think it felt like at the time the biggest decision, but it wasn't because it was being made in the universe for me. I just stepped on that train or just started going with that ball that was already rolling. But there have been times where I felt like I always had to prove myself or find validity in that choice of doing chiropractic, for various family reasons, but also because I've still been, or I was brought up very ingrained in that medical model. And as much as you can make decisions for yourself or start walking down particular paths, there's still parts of you that have that resistance
Mm.
or that lack of surrender perhaps is the right word. And so at various points over the last 23 years, I've definitely come up against that place of, did I make the right decision? And feeling valid. I think validity in that is a big one.
Let's take chiropractic out for a minute and just talk about the power of intuition. Really, this is some sort of intuition, and you've seen when you're in alignment, you can just make better intuitive calls. How many clients, when you saw them, you're in the practice now and you saw them, just their intuition, when they trust their intuition and direction in life, whether it's about a relationship, whether it's about a work path, whether it's about just a decision on which holiday to go to. When we're in touch with our intuition, we just make better decisions. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And actually, it comes with an ease, I think. So I think if you're not used to walking and trusting your intuition, it feels a bit pointy at the beginning. You feel like there's resistance, but as soon as you step into that and actually go with it, it's easy and it flows. And I think that's what you taught me right back, even in the whole interview process, just the flow when you are going with your intuition and when you're stepping into, yeah, that feels right. There's just this beautiful flow and you don't have to fight. And it feels like then you just start being carried along. And I think that's the say you see that with your clients. I'm sure you do now. You see people surrendering to the different way of trusting themselves and trusting their intuition and trusting that this is the right modality for them. And they improve their their gains in terms of their wellness are much quicker and much bigger. And if you're always second guessing and thinking maybe there's a different way, I feel like that's where people get stuck.
Well, look, a lot of people get stuck up in their head and they overthink things. Like you said, they second guess themselves, they get stuck in their head. And for the listener out there, I guess you're talking about the difference between that real intuitive feeling and being stuck up in your head. And I think when people have a big decision to make, when they're into it, in their intuition, the flow and that ease of that is just so much cleaner, so much easier. I loved your description. That was beautiful. So that is ultimately one of the biggest things you can do to turn your power on.
And Tone, I think one of the things that I feel, I guess, privileged in that my mum treated me when I was younger, she treated me homeopathically for I had chronic ear infections. And so I already had this little switch that was about, oh, maybe there's a different way. And homeopathy, as you know, it teaches you to put things in the body that align with what's already going on and using it to treat an illness or a situation that way, rather than putting some foreign thing in the body and hoping that it fixes it. It's like a little micro dose of what the problem is, and it goes in. So I had this switch that was already waiting there, but that was enough to help me trust my own body. And I think one of the things that we haven't been taught as a generation or as a society is actually we can trust ourselves.
Mm.
And you talk about how do we step into our power? I think one of the biggest things we can do to step into our power is actually to sit and trust that our body knows how to heal. If we simply get ourselves aligned with the environment, with what we're putting into it, how we're approaching our health and making sure fundamentally, obviously I'm a chiropractor through and through, but fundamentally our nervous system has to be aligned. But I trust my body explicitly to be able to do that, provided the right environment. And that is something that as I said, I had a tiny switch at the very beginning of my life. You have come along and you have gone, Nick, essentially, Nick, why aren't you trusting your body? And now that's my, I feel like that's my role in life for my children and my husband. And I feel like if I do nothing else but make my own kids and my husband fall in love with their bodies enough to trust that they can heal, well, that's like job done. So if I can impart that to other people, I'm like that is what walking in power is, I guess, isn't it? Just
Oh,
knowing that's the truth for me and helping other people walk in that truth.
absolutely. You said it so beautifully. And then life throws you a curveball. And you certainly got one of those, didn't you? Can you tell the listeners you're on this path, you've taken over my practice, I've moved out of the state, and tell share to the listeners what happened for you.
Well, yeah, I obviously had taken over your practice, an epic practice, and lots of fun, busy, cranking. I had had my second child and I had started back. I feel like I had been working for about 3 months. Oh, no, hang on. I've got my dates wrong. Can't remember. You're going to have to chop that bit out, Tone. This is brain fog moment. what year was it? 2014. Yeah, so yeah, I had come back off maternity leave and the practice was thriving again. And it was the week before Christmas, had the biggest week in practice since I'd taken over. And then I was doing the shopping on a Friday afternoon. Would you believe? Had people for dinner, went to grab some groceries at the local supermarket and was walking back through with a trolley full of groceries. And out of nowhere, a woman came from a parked stationary car. She hit reverse and she ran over me, hit me, ran over me, and I was knocked down and rolled underneath the car and dragged, and very fortunately came out the other side, but with some life-changing injuries, I guess.
So with those injuries, oh God, I remember speaking to you, the emotion of it's coming up in me. I don't know what it's done for you. I know it was a massive life-changing event. How did those injuries impact you for the listener in terms of your ability moving forward?
Yeah, 10. You're right. It is emotional. I boxed it up, which is great because it's nearly 11 years on. But I was invincible at that time and I thought I could stop the car. So I put my arm out, my right arm, and I'm a right-handed chiropractor, and the back of the car hit my arm and basically obliterated the head of the humerus out of the socket, and it was smashed into lots of pieces. And then as I was pushed down under the car actually drove over my back. So I sustained 14 odd fractures in my lumbar spine. And as a result of that, well, at the time, obviously, I was in an acute state. So I was unable to practice for about 6 months. But moving forward, I was unable to practice at anywhere near the capacity that I had been. I was practicing, I would say, maybe an eighth of what I was in terms of hours and capacity. And I was coming in and I was almost crawling up the stairs after each shift because I had nerve damage, nerve pain down my legs. That's a quite a tricky pain to live with because it's nerve pain is not something that is touched by medication very well. And being somebody who trusts their body to heal and not wanting to be on medication, I didn't take lots of medication. And it was a very uncontrolled pain. And that's yeah, a tricky place to be in. It's messes with your mental health, your tolerance, and then other than just that back pain and weakness, my shoulder as a primary component of chiropractic, putting force through the right side of my body in order to provide an adjustment just became harder and harder. And I had ended up having 3 other surgeries after the actual initial repair, and got to the point where the surgeon said to me, "Nick," absolutely fantastic surgeon, said, "You can carry on practicing chiropractic. However, the quality of your life in the future is gonna be quite impaired. Given that I've lost a lot of motion now, I've got, like, I'd say half the normal function of a shoulder, other than when I swim, which is another story. But the surgeon basically said, "Look, you can do this." And so I had this choice to make where I had to really weigh up the fact that I have felt called to chiropractic, that if we go back to that initial story, the intuition is, yes, chiropractic is what I'm meant to do. That's my purpose. I wholeheartedly believe in the power of chiropractic. But I also know that I'm a wife and I'm a mother before I'm a chiropractor. And actually, my family deserves the best of me. And we have a physical family life. We surf, we swim, we want to be outdoors, we want to travel, we want to do all of this stuff. And chiropractic, continuing to practice that, it was taking away my ability to actually function well. So I was giving the best of myself to everybody else, but not my family. And I think, to be totally honest, Tone, that's probably been the hardest decision I've ever had to make because there's so much identity wrapped up in what you do as a profession. And I had already had this crisis of identity when I chose chiropractic over medicine, but then choosing my family and choosing to be a wife, choosing to be a mother, choosing to be the very best of just me simply because I am, was a really, I feel like, honestly, it was a gut-wrenching decision. I felt like I wasn't enough. When I chose that, it felt like it wasn't enough because I had no longer had this great title to my name and, Niki Cole chiropractor. Well, I still have that, obviously, a well-trained chiropractor, but I'm not practicing anymore. And when people say, "Oh, so what do you do?" For a long time, I just said, "Oh, well, I'm just a mum." And I would put myself down all the time because it felt like I wasn't good enough. But actually, the choice really was to become good enough in simply being who I am and choosing my family and choosing that first. So I guess nearly 11 years down the track, I can say to you now that it has been such a huge journey, but I'm feeling so deeply content in having made that decision.
Nick, I love that. And God, knowing your story as I do, just the fact that you even went back to practice after that sort of injury, you almost died. And you're like, oh, yeah, I was back in practice in 6 months in some capacity. Just unbelievable. And the listener might not fully get a sense of what you've been through, but I'm sure that they could feel the depth of it and the decisions around your path, your family, your identity, all of that. It is just such an amazing story. And to bottle that story up in this podcast, if the listener can get trusting yourself to that place of deep contentment, and that journey might be full of pain, full of doubt, full of really bad moments of trying to get up in the morning and do your rehab or whatever it might be. Find that true place of peace and contentment with your life and that you are enough. There's almost no more power than that I can even think of. So I just want to acknowledge you for the journey you've done and that people I know you've inspired along the way, whether that's your friend, your family group, and just yourself, Nick. Yourself is such an amazing human. So let's talk about a little bit further from that, how your faith links into that, because I know for you, you've had a journey there as well. How does your faith link into your power in this regard?
Well, I think I have, again, that's a whole nother journey, probably a number of podcasts here, but I have a great foundation in having been brought up in the church, in feeling as though and knowing deeply that I am a created being, that actually I haven't just come out of some spontaneous big bang. And look, I absolutely fundamentally accept that we all come at our existence from different points of view. So my faith journey, I was in a very legalistic Church of England church, and there was lots of rules around faith and around how that was outworked in my life and other people's lives. But I have walked this journey of realizing that the only thing that matters now, other than do I go to church? No. Do I pray every day? No. Do I have a quiet time? No. But the only thing that matters is actually that I have a deep inner sense of I am a created human being, and the there's a term called the ground of being, and I don't know, I imagine you've probably heard of that and other people may have, but the ground of all being, the breath of life, I fundamentally believe that exists in all of us because that was our creator. And be that a spirit, I don't even know how to describe what that is, but I can stand on that. I'm a created human being that was designed to operate in a particular way, and that is with this innate nervous system, an innate way of healing. And whilst I'm not, obviously, I have been such a great example of the medical system being there to rescue me when I needed rescuing. I was in ICU. I was operated on lots of times. I will always be grateful and thankful for that incredible skill of those surgeons. But aside from that need that I had, faith has allowed me to stand in that capacity of the creator spirit has given us what we need. And part of my journey as a chiropractor was actually for those people who resonated on a spiritual level, actually saying, you know what, like there is a plan and a purpose to your life. And part of that is to walk in your innate ability to heal and to trust that created side of you. And yeah, I mean, faith is it's a really interesting point, an interesting conversation. But I
Let me
just
jump.
feel so
Oh, sorry, Nick. Let me just
yeah.
there because just in terms of, I want to cover something that I think is really important, and that is in more a day to day sense, faith of routine and ritual, and your morning ritual of swimming and being immersed in the ocean, and how that day to day practical thing in terms of your shoulder rehab, everything has become part of your life. So you've got, this mental toughness, these decisions you've made, but then tell me about the power of the ocean and water for your healing.
Honest it is so tricky to describe what the ocean means to me. Again, that guess that coming back to that ground of being in the breath of life, I feel like the ocean, that we are expressions or that we have ocean current running through us. And ocean for me has been a savior. I don't want to make it too spiritual, but it has been my savior because it's fluid, it's different every day. It's hot, it's cold, it's rough, it's peaceful, it's majestic, the colors change, and it has been a place where my nervous system has literally reset on a daily basis. And I've developed a ritual, as you said, around going to the ocean. And in fact, days we swim with a group of, or not a group, yeah, a mini group of blokes at 1 o'clock. And regardless of the conditions, we go in and we get wet. And it's like a daily baptism. And I've said it to them before. I said, I feel like I can bring everything that I have, which is sometimes debilitating pain. And other times it can just be a bad mood. Sometimes it can be a real joy and it can be elation. But I bring that to the ocean and my nervous system, it feels tangibly like it's giving thanks. And then I get in the water and I come out a new person, you know? I the only way I can describe it, and that can be literally like a dip. Like I have to get in, I just need to get my head under the water, and that might be all that I have time for, and I get out. Other times it's a K, it's 2 Ks, it's whatever it is, but it's that little ritual of getting to the ocean. And just before I turned 40, I thought, you know, I don't want to just be bringing in this 40th year and go, "Oh, I've hit 40 and that's great." I was like, "What can I do as a gift to myself to mark this transition?" And so I said, "I'm gonna swim every day. I'm gonna get in the ocean every day." So for 300 and ended up being 367 days, without fail, I got in the ocean, and there was times where I was going places and at some point I went overseas. So I structured this trip around making sure I could get in the ocean. And, that may have become a little bit legalistic at the point, but it was this gift that actually I I want to give this to myself as a present, that I can be in the water every single day. And it was just, and still is, the most amazing place for me.
Oh, I love that. And not everyone has to love the ocean. They could find their own space, their own, could be a walk in the forest, it could be something. But the power of that ritual and the power of that actual being back in your physical body, even after the traumas you've been through, and that regular, I love the salt water, as you know, and I love the ocean, but I'm nowhere near as much and as regular as that. And some people are called to that, but some people have their own calling of, could be meditation on their back step, whatever it is. What's been the power of that ritual and in your life, in your turning of your power on?
I think the power in it is actually carving out the time and the priority and actually saying, "It is worth me doing that. It's worth me carving the time out. It's worth me experiencing power of the ocean in its true form." Like actually just now as we're speaking, we've got a storm coming over. Well, we had for the first time in ages beautiful blue sky. and the ocean was calm for the first time in a very long time. Had a great swim. And when you allow excuses to come in like, oh, it's too rough or it's too windy or it's too cold, you actually are just giving in to this space of comfort, I think. And the ritual in doing something. And, I love Rach Cairns' story about walking, like just getting out there and starting to walk, like one foot in front of the other. That's where bet you there was times where she did not want to go out, that it was raining. But actually, the ritual of just doing it is honoring yourself and honoring the fact that actually it is life giving. And yes, there's a health component by being outside, but the ritual is just saying you're worth it.
Yeah.
You are worth making that effort for, and not, and being uncomfortable is actually great. Like being uncomfortable is a really epic thing. And it's almost like it triggers new neurons. You go, oh, yeah, I can imagine doing new things, doing the hard things, being uncomfortable. It brings a whole new level of life.
Oh, so epic. What a great place. We probably need to wrap up this one, Nick, because as I said, we talked for ages. But have you got any final bit of wisdom you'd like to share with the listeners through your journey about, the realms of power, how to turn their power on?
Oh, Tone, I feel like, I guess the last thing I would say is actually don't be scared of being uncomfortable. And I did listen to a podcast recently that said one of the greatest things that we can do for ourselves as we age is actually to do new things, to try new things. And I believe there is a massive amount of power in trying new things. And if you haven't, if there's a listener that hasn't tried chiropractic, get adjusted. It is literally life-giving. And I think that's all I can say. Like chiropractic, I love it. It has been such an honor to be able to be part of that profession. And Tone, I have you to thank. I really sincerely want to thank you for that.
Wow. Thank you, Nick. That means the absolute world. All right. Well, let's wrap it up there. Thank you again. It's such an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. And to our listeners, once again, for tuning in. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. See ya. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Realms of Power. I have such gratitude for your time and energy and the vision to join us with turning your true aligned power on. To take your power up another level, you could share this episode with someone who you think would benefit, or make a comment online that would help us get this information out there. We'd really appreciate your love and support. Hope you have an awesome day. See ya.